Hey there, my name is Pravus, and welcome to a charming and relaxing game called Dorfromantik. This is a indie strategy city builder type of game, where really you're trying to build out a new world from scratch, using these hexagonal tiles with different features on them. The more you can connect them in sensible ways, the more score you are going to get, and your goal is ultimately to get the highest score possible before wiping the slate clean and starting over. It's a really interesting game that kind of reminds me of a popular board game from a while back called Carcassonne. Very similar idea, except it is going to be single player instead of multiplayer. This game is developed and published by Tucana Interactive, and it was released almost exactly 1 year ago. In fact, the reason I'm picking it back up right now is because on the day I'm recording this, it just so happens to be Earth Day. So it just sort of seemed appropriate. Let's go ahead and jump into a new game, and I'm going to show you how this works. Welcome to the world. It's kind of empty, isn't it? This is our starting tile, and over here on the right, you can see we have a stack of 40 additional tiles, with a preview of what's to come. Ultimately, our goal is to place these in ways that make sense so that like features are connecting to each other so we can get some score points. So if I simply want to move, let's say, our city over in this direction, place something like this, and then maybe move some farms over, how about over here? And then maybe some additional city spaces kind of close like this, and then maybe tie these together like so. Boom! We've just accomplished a small quest, I get a lot of score points, and as a result, I also get more tiles. Ultimately, you're trying to play the game so well that you get so many tiles you can just keep building a bigger and bigger and more complex map. Now, what's really going to mess you up, in my experience, are railroads and the rivers. I've got my first railroad over here, so I guess I'll place this in this direction over that way. Let's also continue working out some of the farms, trying to build these in a way that makes sense. There's some cities over here, so now that they're starting to mix together, we have to worry about getting farms and cities in the same general area. Yeah, that can get a little bit tricky at times, but it's okay. Now, see, if I did something like this city right here wouldn't connect up to the grasslands of this particular tile. And also, there's a forest over here, another feature we haven't messed with yet. So this is not an optimal placement, right? And what ends up happening with a game like this is you spend a fair bit of time trying to come up with an optimal setup and placing every one of these tiles. You sit here and you're like, is this where I want it? Is this where I want it? What makes sense? What's a good spot, right? And it ends up being one of those slower paced games that's intended to be thoughtful more than anything. It's not hard, it's not strenuous exactly, but it does require a bit of thought. Oh, and here comes the river, okay, and this is going to split off in a few different directions, so this can get chaotic very quickly. Let's try setting up this direction, I guess. Obviously, only river pieces can attach to the river, so this kind of locks you out of a lot of options. Same thing with the railroad. Usually I like to have these kind of off in a distance. Now, don't feel like in this game you have to place tons and tons of, let's say, track on these railroads. You can just have like a nice small railroad and just simply stop. That's okay. You don't have to have a city that sprawls across the entire map. In fact, that may not be ideal. You want to have nice small bursts of cities, and that's better. What matters more than anything else in this game is making every single tile deliberate and make sense as much as possible. If we get one of these tiles fully surrounded by perfectly matching tiles, we get some extra score. Whenever we get quests, like this railroad right over here, then we get more score. As long as you meet those two things, that's what's going to keep it going, all right? So don't worry about creating the mega city. Just try to be sensible with your tile placement, and you'll do fine. Ah, that was a perfect tile right there. Okay, along some of these rivers. Not bad, not bad. We got a really big city tile over here. Kind of work if I did something like this. It's not perfect, but it's close-ish, and it makes it easy for me to connect other parts of these cities together like so. The rivers want to be connected. Fair enough. If I did something like this, you can start working on a forest over here. And of course, I've got a whole bunch of farms to worry about too. Why not? Yeah, the farms honestly probably annoy me more than anything else in this game. Just because it's so easy to feel like you need to create a giant farmland. That's not how it works though. Don't be tempted. This actually caps things off pretty nicely, so I take those opportunities whenever I see them. Over here, we can try to get some trees connected, but it's not perfect. If we did something like this, we'd probably be setting ourselves up. There we go, actually. This kind of caps stuff off along over here. Just, yeah, whenever you see an opportunity to close off a segment of your water and stuff like that, or close off a segment of forest, not a bad idea. Go ahead and do it. Don't feel bad. It makes sense. What feels real bad is when you have no good options with something like a railroad. We can finish off a quest here, but I'm okay on tiles, so I'm not desperate. might make more sense to... Actually, there's no good spot over here either. Blech, okay. What if we set up a whole new railroad over this way? That way, at least I have more options if I want to place down more tracks. I'm also kind of limiting my options over here, which is annoying, but, you know, well, okay, whatever. You can just do what you can do. This is not perfect. We can kind of cap up a bit of city over here. No, none of these are great, but I guess I'll try this knowing it's not fantastical. Let's rotate this around. That actually connects up beautifully. Okay, we love seeing things like that. And then we're kind of not doing great at continuing the forests. It would be nice to create another forest somewhere else so that we can probably get another round of trees building up. We could do that now. I mean, there's nothing really stopping me from doing that. I didn't have to place this tile here. And if you change your mind, there is an undo button, right? So we can take this back up. And if I wanted to move this, let's say, over like this instead, you know, that's something we could do. And I mean, yeah, I have to find more tiles that are going to fit neatly over here. Maybe I get that, maybe I don't. But at least we're not, like, guaranteeing that this tile isn't going to work for us. That kind of thing. So one thing that I think would be really nice in this game, and I don't even know if it's still getting updated or not, but it would be really nice if we could get something like a store button, right? You take a tile here, and it's like, I don't know that I'm going to need this right now, but I'll bet you I'm going to want it at some point in the future. Maybe I can just put this tile aside and then pick it up again later when I see a much better opportunity arise. That's the sort of thing I'd like to see added in the game, but I don't know. Again, like I said, the game's been out for about a year at this point, so it may not be getting any more development, but, you know, a guy can dream. Oh, finally, the perfect tile I was looking for right here. Oh, when those moments come down, you get all those stacking perfect scores. That feels real good. I'm going to be placing this probably right over here. You should be able to hook a train up to it and it becomes an endpoint, which is kind of convenient. And it lets me kind of bridge between the river and the railroad. So if I want to keep building out this direction later, I'll be able to. These kind of tiles are my bane, because it is a city, and it's a field, and it's a forest. It's trying to do so many things all at once. It's too much, man. That's what it is. It's too much. And yet, right over here is a perfect spot for it. Okay, fine. Doesn't create any problems for me. We can continue trying to build out this way. Yeah, I guess just kind of leaves a lot of room to join up a lot of forests. I think for the tree quests, by the way, it does actually come down to the number of trees on the tiles in aggregate. So if you have a tile with an absolute ton of trees on it, it's a pretty good way of knocking out some of these quests. A lot of the quests do require like 200, 300, 400 kind of trees all connected together. So large forests often end up being pretty decent for you. The farms, less so. These guys can run out of speed or take up too much space pretty quickly. Oh, here's a nearly perfect tile. We could place this one right along here. This would cap off at least a little bit of the city. It doesn't get everything exactly right, but it's pretty close. That's not half bad for me. Oh, yeah. Those kind of moments feel really, really good. This is starting to shape up pretty nicely, isn't it? It's looking kind of pretty and quaint. And this is where I'm saying, like, this is just one of those games that's enough of a brain teaser that it really keeps you going, right? You want to be thoughtful about how you approach it. You don't want to just go in gung-ho and just try to, you know, force something through, right? You actually want to be deliberate about how you play this game. But it's relaxed. There's nothing strenuous. You just sort of sit here, you ponder, you consider all your options, and you just sort of make something happen. Something that can definitely get tricky with this game, though, is remember you do have a finite number of tiles. So this isn't the sort of thing where you can just kind of keep going indefinitely and, right, just, you know, find the one little place where you can place down a tile and, oh, it fits perfectly. But does it advance your goal of getting more score? And, you know, maybe it doesn't, in which case, well, all of a sudden, maybe that wasn't the best choice, and you start running out of steam pretty quickly. Like, that kind of a thing can absolutely happen in this game, too. I do like where some of this is going, though. We're definitely getting some great areas. This is fantastic. Look at this. A perfect spot to close off so many trees. All right, fantastic. So this is going to be a much, much easier thing to do. Ideally, try not to get in a situation where you introduce, like, let's say 3 separate elements where they all join together. For example, I don't love that I'm going to have to find a river with a field, but imagine I place something over here where I also had, let's say, a city. So I had to find the perfect tile that's a river, a field, and a city all in one spot. Like, that would just be way too hard to pull off, right? So try not to make things harder on yourself by intentionally spacing out features as much as makes sense. to some degree, you're not going to have a choice. But where you can, be smart. We're doing pretty well for ourselves so far. I'm up to about 4,700 in score, and I've still got 50 tiles to go with. So we're maintaining our advantage pretty well right now. That can change pretty darn quickly, though. I think the best that I've ever done so far in the game is somewhere on the order of like 7,000 points, which is not great, believe it or not. It sounds decent, but it's terrible, because it's not enough to even place me in the top 300,000 of people who've played this game. Yeah, there's been a lot of people who've played this game, and they're apparently way better at it than I am. Oh, well, here's a bizarre tile. River, railroad, city, and farm. All in one. That is, that is not going to be fun to deal with, is it? No, this is terrible. Well, we could do something kind of like this, and weirdly enough, it does sort of fit. It caps off the farm so we don't actually finish off the quest over here, but it does finish this off, and it kind of, that's the best I could possibly hope for, I think. We'll go with it. Oh, now this is fun. So if you get a lot of score and you can place down a whole bunch of different tiles, you do unlock different biomes or special skins for certain types of tiles. Kind of fun. I don't think it changes the game in any way. It exists purely for the beauty aspect of it. And you know what? That's A-okay with me. So here's an example of a tile that I wish I could store. It's a simple straight railroad with a city on only one side. There's not a single spot that I've got right now where this definitely will work. We'd have to be banking on something else later and building around it. And at some point, this is not really to my advantage. It starts getting too complicated. So I'd love to store this for another use, but alas, we can't do that. So, I guess I could do something like this. It's not perfect, but at least it keeps things going in a way that kind of makes sense. Oh gosh, another freaking weird tile. Look at this monstrosity. All right, so on 3 sides you got city, and on the opposite 3 sides you got farm. Okay, yeah, no, this is one of the worst things I've ever seen. Okay, this one's not perfect, but it's somewhat close as far as placement. Gosh dang it. Is there anything else that's better than this? Why are you throwing me such horrible tiles? I hate this one. Ooh, and another skin unlocked. The water train station. Which is really the same as the other train stations I've already got. It's just this one looks a little different than the others. All right, that's exciting. Oh, now this is just perfect. Take the pure water tile, drop it off right here. It's the same as having grass anywhere if I want it. Boom. An instant perfect tile. It doesn't get much better than that. Running out of steam here, though. I've only got 13 tiles remaining. And we've kind of worked ourselves into a hole in a couple of places. I can't tie this railroad together, as useless as it is. I don't really have any way of tying this together either without a train station because of the railroad here. So we can't fulfill this quest. This is going to be too many trees. Somehow, we need to build out more of, let's say, this city. That could be one thing to do. This city grew way bigger than I intended it to. Actually, we're pretty close to being able to finish out this really big quest if we can. Just a little bit more would do the job. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we can make something work along over here, too. We've got to be very careful with these next, 13 tiles. I don't have a lot of wriggle room to make mistakes. Oh, actually, this might be about perfect. Hang on, we got a train station. Just place it right here. We finish off this train. We open up more of the river. There we go. We got some perfect tiles. I'm back up to 15. We're still in it, boys. We're still in it. There we go, another quest, back up to 18 tiles now. Come on, this is actually the best I've ever done in the game. I'm not gonna lie, we're up to about 10,000 score. For me, it's pretty good. Still hanging in there, barely. I keep getting down to 8 tiles and finishing out a quest and getting just a little bit further along. Don't count me out just yet here, man. Don't call it a comeback. I'm hanging in there. Holy crud, this is getting close though. It's a little frustrating over here, though. I need exactly 3 houses to finish this quest off, and it's taunting me. Oh, boy. I think this is one of the things that I find so dang intriguing about the game, though. This is such a simple concept, right? It really is not that complicated. It's pretty easy to pick up and just kind of get going with it. And yet, in practice, this ends up being the kind of game where the further along you get, the more you have to be sitting there and trying to be thoughtful about your placement, really making sure that everything is as deliberate as possible. You're encouraged to play this game a bit on the slower side. And with the ability to do that, right, to develop a game like that without getting horribly boring, not common. So Dorfromantik has somehow managed to find a really good balance in that way. Oh, hallelujah. Exactly 3 houses, finally. Done with that. I was down to 3 tiles, but we've got 6 more. The game's still going. That said, I can already sense that the end is approaching. There's just not much more room for me to go at this point. I should definitely be ending it pretty soon here. Well, I say that, and then we just completed another really big quest for this city. Gosh, I'm back up to 11 tiles. Ah! Only a couple of tiles left. This is definitely going to be it, and there's nowhere to really place some of these, so we're just going to kind of go with whatever looks okay-ish, I guess. Maybe fill in a gap somewhere if we can find a halfway decent spot. I guess this will have to do. All right, so that's going to be the end of things, and I ultimately got 14,740 points. Not a half bad run as far as Dorfromantik is concerned. I actually jumped up a lot from the leaderboard. I was sub 300,000. Now I'm up into the top 130,000. I'm really curious what like the absolute top tier maps end up looking like. Like how many points can you possibly get? I'm really curious on that. Can we actually see what the scores can be? Oh my god. All right, I don't know if you can see this on the I don't know if you can see this on screen, probably not. The absolute top score, I kid you not, 5,996,910. 5,996,910? How in the ever-loving crud is that possible? Wow. Wow. Okay. And the thing is, that's not even like an outlier. There were several, like, above 5 million scores in the top leaderboard, so it's totally doable. Jeez. That must be quite the trip. Okay. Well, I can't quite get on that level, but you guys get some idea how Dorfromantik works. Like I said, it's a very relaxing, it's a very calming, it's a very chill game, but that doesn't mean that it's easy or that it's brainless. This game still manages to be thoughtful. That's one of the things I think is really good about this game. It strikes that great balance between something to occupy your brain, kind of like a little brain teaser, but it doesn't feel high stakes, it's not stressful, you take your time, and you build out the perfect world. Thank you all very much for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed this video. If so, I would ask you to hit that like button, leave a comment, make sure you hit that notify bell, and I will see you guys next time.